Study session.
Okay, the study session has started. Thanks for being here. All those, everybody stand for a pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll have public comments. Please. Yes, Kirk.
I'll go ahead and start. Mark, I appreciate you're here this morning because this will be something that I was talking to Jeff about that we need to look into for future. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a 1:30 in the morning call for the fire department to bring forcible entry tools to gain entry into a home. A couple young guys on our department, I didn't make the call. They get there and they were instructed to force entry on the door. We don't have a search warrant. We just can't break into someone's home because someone asks us to. Now, if it's an ambulance call or a medical alert, which I understand this was like a possible suicide, nobody ever dispatched an ambulance. So it's deputies asking us to break in. My guys broke through the door, then they made entry. If we're going to be asked from a fire side to do that kind of thing, we've got to have some kind of agreement as to what the criteria is to prevent a lot of potential problems down the road. Because from a liability standpoint, I've instructed my guys, Ixnay, we don't do that. Because I see it as a huge potential if the landowner decides that they want to sue us for breaking and entering without a search warrant. That's a real problem. And I think there was a lot of miscommunication somewhere, but dispatch never sent an ambulance. Had they sent an ambulance, it would have been a whole different ballgame. I think, hey, we got a possible suicide, we need to get in there. But there was no ambulance sent, so the claim that it was suicide really questions what type of dispatch operation we had on that. But I've instructed my guys to no longer do that, and however you guys want to deal with it internally to come up with some type of agreement. We got no problem helping out. If you want our tools, here they are. We'll be happy to give them to you, but I can't have my guys doing that. That's all I have.
Okay.
Say. My name is Robert Bogue, citizen of the United States of America, veteran of the United States Army, and I'm an Edgar County resident. By now, I'm sure everybody in this room has heard about the letter from the Illinois Division of Aeronautics, the one that halts airport funding and planning until compliance is met. This action was taken because the airport expansions were completed in violation of Illinois law. Illegal expansions such as the main runway, sponsored by Chris Patrick, who later supplied concrete for that runway, was one in which eminent domain was used against Don Ferris to take his land. And the threats of eminent domain were made against others to compel them to sell their property they would not have sold. Another illegal expansion of the Crosswood runway included threats of eminent domain against those landowners that did not wish to sell their property. I know the Dyer family farm lost ground there as well as others, and they did not wish to sell their property either. The purchase of a residence and land that was unaffordable to the airport until it mysteriously burned. This was also an illegal expansion of the Edgar County Airport. Since there was no county zoning in place, it's mandated by Illinois law. I didn't write the law. That is the law. The taking of all this land was in violation of Illinois law. Illinois states there must be zoning in place before the airport can expand, and it was not. Edgar County Airport has no legal right to invoke eminent domain proceedings against Don Ferris or to take his property. All properties taken, purchased, or acquired during these airport expansions were taken illegally and in violation of Illinois law. The airport and the county have no legal right to keep this property, and it must be returned to the previous owners. There's irony in this. How ironic that our county residents are fighting against the Ameren power lines and against eminent domain imposed upon us by those outside our community, as we now face our very own history under the same injustice that our very own airport has illegally imposed upon local residents. How ironic more landowners and even our community now understand the reality of eminent domain as they search for hope and consolation in Illinois law. The same Illinois law this county has already broken time and again. And there's more. There's more issues surrounding the airport that lie ahead. The course you set and take will in large part determine the future of the airport. I suggest you return all the land taken illegally and forget zoning around the airport, since those that have already lost ground to the airport are not likely, are most likely to be those affected by the zoning and not likely to appreciate that. I simply cannot see that that would be welcome. This county needs to fund, yes, with an $80,000 budget not entirely spent last year, and in addition to an annual income of $70,000 or $60,000 that has been left unspent over the past few years, there is money to fix the airport. This county needs to fund the credit card option to existing fuel pumps, something that can be done for less than $15,000. It needs to paint, clean up, and fix the terminal building, and bank the rest for the future. That's the direction we need to go. Thank you.
I've got a couple items. I know either last month or the month before, you decided or made some agreement that you were gonna take bids for leasing the main hangar. I want to know when that's gonna be published in the paper and when the bids are gonna be due and under how do you want them submitted? That was my understanding, that's about what you guys were gonna do. I believe it was said during a meeting. Might have been said during a study session. And the other thing, if you choose to go with some type of zoning, I would urge that you include the surrounding landowners on the zoning commission that I believe you have to start in order to write your zoning ordinance. And I would also urge that the county additionally institute some type of tall structure ordinance that includes cell towers and wind turbines and other items of the like, because people really don't appreciate those things sitting in their backyards. So if you do continue with the airport zoning, I'm asking that you also include those tall structures countywide, so you can kind of have some leg to stand on when somebody else wants to move in. That's all I have.
Anybody further? Hearing none, we'll proceed with the study session. We're pleased that Mark could be here this morning. He's going to talk to us about some issues revolving around the letter that we received from the state, and his understanding and, of course, or I guess dialogue with the state folks.
Right, is the letter that was referenced earlier from IDOT Aeronautics. Essentially, any future funding will not be considered because the county isn't in compliance with zoning. So
This is state law, federal law?
there is a state law.
Okay.
You can arguing over whether or not expansion means any enlargement, make a building bigger versus changing the boundaries. You can have your argument, but the fact that there was condemnation means it expanded beyond the boundaries, and so that took it, there's no question that expanded beyond boundaries. This is part of the discussion with interim director, chief legal counsel, IDOT Aeronautics, and they're the middleman for the funding that comes from the federal government through the state to the eventual end user, which would be Edgar County. Their position is that they're waiting to see what the county decides on compliance, because essentially there won't be any more funding considerations because of the FAA's requirement on grant assurances that we kind of heard about or talked about. So there was a meeting that took place, I believe it was Mr. Bogue and a couple others that had a conversation with the FAA representative, IDOT Aeronautics, and again, my impression from a conversation of one of the people involved is that they're not really interested in punitive actions, they're interested in corrective actions. And they wanna make sure that we understand that, corrective means the county has a choice to make to meet assurances. And meeting assurances means regardless of what the local argument is, and I've heard from the other side as well, the fact that we've done something for 40 or 45 years doesn't necessarily make it right, as we found out from time to time on things. And when something's been brought up, it's generally been the response of the board to try and fix it. I assume we'll go in that direction, but again, that's out of my jurisdiction, that's a board policy directive to proceed, and what we probably need to do is investigate just what it'll take first. You can't make a decision, I wouldn't think, unless you were informed enough of the alternatives or possibilities or costs or time or what it will take. So I'm assuming again that I would probably work with the airport committee to try and develop initially what airports of similar size communities have done for their zoning. That would give the board a chance to look at, again, similar situation versus recreating the wheel or using bad examples from dissimilar airport counties. And then if we get into the bigger discussion of countywide zoning, I was gonna take a lot more, that gets very sensitive with land use restrictions. So again, it's the beginning, what I foresee to be a long process if it's done diligently. It's not a quick fix. And the idea that the board will make a decision should be where the next step is to gather information so you can make that informed decision, is what I would assume where we go forward, and I assume that would be through the airport committee. And that they just kind of plot out a course. Ultimately, it wouldn't matter if the county board had to jump on one foot on Tuesdays. If the people with the money spigot say, this is what you need to do if you want any more money, arguing whether that's true or not, or fair or not, doesn't necessarily, isn't productive. I've kind of been told in no uncertain terms, we have a letter that would document that they're telling us the direction we need to go in if qualifications for future funding is what we seek. And if not, then there's a whole different direction the airport's gonna have to head. So again, it'll be a board decision in the future. And it's just about collecting information and trying to chart the path of what we need to do if we choose A or B. So I just wanted to let you know I had spoken with individuals that issued the letter and was made aware of their essentially wanting us to correct. The interim director said he'd like to come down and visit and be in touch with what we need to do. They're essentially the auditors, really, of the federal money, so hopefully in the next few weeks, month or so, he's gonna make a trip down and either meet with the airport committee chairman or any other individual. But again, we're at the beginning of what will probably be a little lengthier process than most people think.
Other
Bear that in
question
mind.
from the board members?
This state law, how long has it been on the books?
I haven't done a history on it,
Yeah.
but it's
So it probably might have been on the books back when the airport was first started.
very well probably was the beginning of the landing field airstrip. There are two different statutes, and we fall under one, and they're, without trying to, we look at the forest view of things.
Yeah.
Small community built something that small communities don't normally have. And at this particular point in time, whether or not, or how it was done,
Right.
isn't very productive at this point,
I'm
so.
just
I'm sure-
curious, but, yeah, we need to get it corrected.
Yeah,
Bottom line.
if that's the decision,
Right.
again, was I propose, present information to the board to consider, and then the board can weigh the pros and cons, the costs and benefits, and then make a decision to go one direction or the other.
Once the board's had a
Yes,
chance,
sir.
please.
Appears the previous boards really didn't have much to do with the airport. It was basically done by the airport advisory committee without going through the county board as a whole. That's probably the reason why we're in such a bad shape right now. But I don't think the board really cared about what was going on out there. And we have people that did, that took the initiative to do things without going through board approval. So what I'm trying to say is that you can't really blame this board for things that happened in the past. And I think we're trying to solve those problems.
Thank you, Mr. Brenner. Yes,
Did they indicate that there's any time frame as far as this federal funding that is available to us if we don't, I mean, is that a time constraint thing that we wanna do this within a certain time to not lose that?
No,
No.
there's no discussion on a particular project or particular fund. No,
let me add light to that. You can accumulate funds over a period of years.
Okay.
Okay,
So we
go ahead.
kind of piggyback on that. The project that is just put on pause was an accumulation of multiple years to build that one up. Now,
Okay.
what I foresee, and this is just a guess, is let's say this process drags out for a certain amount of time, we may lose a year of federal funding to bank for the next project. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That, I guess that's.
It all depends, it's a function of time.
Right. One question, Mark. So 620 has a couple of different aspects, and so I noticed it's only 40, and forgive my ignorance of how to phrase that, but there's a 25 that's a hazard zoning piece. Are we exempt from that, or what's the status of that one, or do we need to address that one as well when we're trying to get this?
there's some question as to whether or not that's a potential option versus a countywide zoning, but again, it's all preliminary. Everybody has opinions, but there's no definitive answer at this point.
Okay, so you're saying that 25, I think, that is a airport-only zoning, whereas this 40 is a more inclusive countywide.
That's an option, yes, that's an opinion. Again, there's no definitive answer, and I don't want to give a false direction or hope at this point. What the information will be is what we'll investigate. I mean, essentially, it's going to come down to IDOT's chief legal cooperating. If they're involved, it'll be a decision locally. But ultimately, it's got to be in compliance with what FAA and basically the money spigot says.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, here's an option A, run it up that flagpole first. If it's a no-starter, non-starter, then, go a different direction. But my guess is it won't, I'm not going to guess.
Are we in danger of is there gonna be an enforcement issue on us on grant assurances because of the zoning issue?
We won't qualify for any further grants.
But we're not gonna get took to the woodshed over the expansion and the last 3 or 4 things that we've done, and have to turn around and jack that concrete out and give it back to the.
That's out of my jurisdiction to answer, since I have no say nor any knowledge in that. What I understood was the FAA, IDOT Aeronautics are interested in corrective actions, not punitive actions. Essentially, to Forest view it, the Fed's investment in the county airport needs to be protected. Without the proper zoning, if they invest money and something's built or something's interferes with the use of the airport, they've wasted that money. It's no longer an airport. So their idea with the zoning, the Forest view is, if we're gonna put money into it, make sure it's not going entity that,
It's
rings all
productive.
bells.
Mike, the directors told me on a couple occasions this last week that they're interested in helping us resolve this issue and moving forward.
Okay.
They're not interested in looking back. Like like Mark said, no punitive. They're trying to get us up and operational, okay?
I mean, does Douglas County have a zoned airport that you're aware of?
I'm
Don't
not
know.
really in aeronautics, so I don't know if you have an idea.
The engineers, Hanson and Associates, are
Okay.
doing, go ahead.
Yeah, I just said it should have a list of.
Right, they're doing, since last week, are going into the paperwork that like airports are having, so that they can provide that to the committee and to Mark, and they want to
Pull statute
participate.
from there.
Right, they want to participate in getting things corrected.
Okay.
I did a quick Google search this morning just to run through and see what's out there. As far as listed county airports, there's less than a handful. Now, it doesn't mean they're not under the county, but just looking at the title of said airport, right? So I just called Shelby County. They have county airports under the Shelby County. They are a fully zoned county, so not much assistance as it stands right now. So, but that's obviously not what Hanson does, so we'll have a little more tools in our kit here soon.
Did you have a short, brief
Mr. Chairman,
comment?
just a comment, a clarification. Mr. Isaac has stated that the interest from IDOT and others is that remedial, isn't there's a great interest in criminal prosecution or punitive action. I want to point out there are two processes for complaining to the FAA, and I think the number is 13, FAR 13. Maybe I'm incorrect on that number. And that is the informal process of which you have speak, and which is at play at this moment. There's one called 15. I hope that number's, my memory serves me, it's 15. It would be a formal complaint. Should someone file that, then yes, that could go down a criminal path, and it could take time to do.
Okay,
That's all I have
fine.
to say.
I got one quick, and if you wanna know the county air, I researched all that a couple weeks ago. Every county that has a county airport, not an airport authority or a city airport, I can give you all the names and phone numbers if you like. The county-owned airports have zoning, some countywide, and a couple of them just for their airport. I can provide those names and phone numbers if you want them. We are the only one that has a county airport with no zoning.
Thank you, John. Yes, Alan?
I can see, I guess, part of the frustration here from my standpoint. I can see possibly why IDOT Aeronautics would not want to look backwards. If they truly are the auditor for federal monies, because evidently they didn't audit this county very well for 30 years.
That's right.
I mean, I feel like all we do is keep trying to jump through hoops for whatever it is, based on what IDOT Aeronautics says is gonna be okay, only to find out it's not okay, only to find out FAA says it's not, but it's like, if this was quote unquote that big a deal, and it would be a big deal if you're the individual involved, but I don't know, why should we, I hate to say that, why should we trust them? I mean, they're gonna tell us what, again, it's not message of our, they're gonna tell us what hoops to jump through again, which is what they've done for the last 30 years, and I know for the last 4 years, what they've told us to do.
What's the alternative?
Well,
I don't know, I'm just saying, where does this go? Is this a constant thing? Maybe nobody else is that way, I just feel like this is constant. I mean,
Yes, Andy?
I don't, my impression is they are not necessarily any more aware of things than what we are aware of, and they simply did what they thought was fine. Now, someone has pressed the issue to them, and the legalities of it have now come out, something that has not, evidently not been done to them before.
but that's-
Otherwise, they would have been aware of this situation. Does
I
that make
understand
sense?
that, I understand what you're saying, Andy, but I'm saying,
I know.
but I'm saying, if this is their job, and hopefully, and I think, in fairness to county boards before us,
That's what I'm saying.
I think they did, based on what the IDOT Aeronautics or Hanson or the combination of those have done.
Question
And,
was never asked.
yeah,
Probably.
well, but if
Exactly.
it's the law, why was, I'll stop.
No, I
It's
didn't.
frustration.
So why would they let us
I-
build a new runway without having zoning,
I don't know.
about 15 years ago?
No one asked, and it's the flow of money, and so that's more federal money coming in
Yeah.
through the state, so why not?
Well, right now, we have like, what, $1.1 million on the table that hasn't been granted for how many years now?
Year and a half.
3 years. So,
I'll
So
stop.
we spent
Are there any
money-
other questions?
Good point, Jeff.
We spent money with the idea that we're gonna get the 1.5, right?
No.
I thought we spent money for Hanson,
Well,
engineering
And I
project.
don't think we've gotten an indication that we're not going to get it. We've
No.
just gotta do
They
something
wanna
else.
get it to us.
Right,
No.
that's, and I get the impression they're.
Well, that was what we got it.
Well,
Okay.
That'd be more work for them to.
what do they say, keep the faith?
Yeah, well, yeah,
I mean, this,
after a certain period of time, it gets kinda old.
are there any other questions on this issue? I would assume that the board is in agreement that we should explore, as Mark is suggesting.
Absolutely.
Turn it over to the airport, the three-member committee, to work with Hanson's and our state's attorney to put together the answers and options as quickly as reasonable to expect and do a good job.
Who is the entity, Mark, that we should be bouncing the options off of? You?
Wouldn't be me. I mean, the idea would
It'd
be,
be Steve Young and his crowd.
Okay.
it's
okay.
IDOT Aeronautics,
Okay,
but it's all, again, the first step though is to collect the information, because a board decision needs to be made
Right.
ultimately. So again, this is just gathering information. We'll take information from anybody, whether it's Chief Legal Counsel of IDOT Aeronautics, whether it's other county airports that have gone through this. We don't know, if it's the consultants.
and then who makes the decision on what was right and what's wrong?
Well, I think that's part of our discussion that we have with aeronautics. I think the logical question is, if we develop the decision, we shouldn't be blindsided. I mean, this should be a cooperative deal, that a rough draft like we send, if we come up with something for Mark.
But when you say right or wrong, I don't understand what you mean.
Well, there's a solution to this problem, but who's going to craft that solution and then who's going to approve that solution? That's my two questions.
Well, the board will make the decision to go in direction A, B, or C, or however many directions there are, the options are put in front of you. The board will make that decision. Before that decision is made, hopefully there's been consulting, there's been legal, there's been chief legal or IDOT FF,
Right.
whomever we can get input in to make sure it's only done once and done the right way.
Well, that's my concern, is we know who those individuals are.
I think we're gonna develop that to make sure that we have that answer, right? I mean, we don't,
Ultimately, I know who 7 of them are.
but hopefully we don't develop something in a vacuum and then just all of a sudden just flip it down and say, there it is, boys. I mean, we've gotta have a back and forth,
We gotta
okay?
have somebody say, this is what you need to do, and have in writing, and then bring it to
I
us.
think
to make
those are the
final decision.
options that'll be presented to
Right,
you
right.
is,
Should be the final
if we
decision.
try this has this probability, whether it's the corrective action, which is just hazard abatement or whatever, just airport for zoning purposes, or whether it's countywide zoning. And then there's gonna be whether it works or not, we'll have some opinions, whether it's FAA. I mean, ultimately, the money spigot has to give the okay.
Right.
Because no matter what we do, and waste a lot of time, effort, resources, a lot of people, and then the FAA through IDOT Aeronautics is not good enough. Hopefully, we won't get to that position and just ignore their input if they'll give us any.
Okay.
Because ultimately, the grant assurances are what's going to fund future projects, and if they say we don't comply, then it doesn't matter what we
Yeah,
do.
then we don't spend the money.
Thanks, Mark. Do we have anything else on that issue? Mark, do you need to talk to us about anything else that's going on in closed session? Okay. I'm sorry, public
That's fine,
comment
that's
is over.
fine.
Do you have anything else then for Mark? Thank you, Mark, for being here. Okay? And we'll go on with committee reports. Andy?
Couple things, I got an estimate from John King on the roof at the garage behind the gym. Pass that around, everybody take a look at it.
Taking it out.
Taking it out.
Yeah, he's qualified to do
Yeah,
it.
it came pretty highly recommended.
Something architectural, something nice,
Yeah.
bring out
Well, we
the
just-
building.
He did
What
our-
color slate you gonna have put on there, Andy?
He did our health department, did a good job.
And he did the health department, he seems like a pretty professional guy, when I
Right.
talked to him, he came highly recommended, so.
Let's just do a summer hire and put that guy putting that roof on, just shameless.
What's that?
do a summer hire and have them do the roof.
I don't know, you have to be insured to put a roof
Not
on.
if you're an employee.
You know?
Oh, yeah,
You haven't got anybody to go back on if something goes wrong.
yeah.
I see that at
I
all.
want, and Jeff said that this,
About the inmates, we got a lot of.
the nice windy weather we've had lately, he's been picking them up right and left out in the parking lot, so we think before we get some deck. John indicated he didn't think there's any deck damage yet. But after talking to Jeff and all the shingles he's been picking up, I think we better do something pretty quick on it, so.
I did go up in the attic one day last week and everything still looks dry up there.
We're on borrowed time now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could change, well, it could be changed after this weekend.
We also needed, what's the word I wanna use, this decision with down the road. We don't wanna put a ton of money in this right now and then have to be 3 years down the road razzing the whole thing to put up a new jail. I mean, keep that in mind.
Right,
That seems to be
Done
very
right, it's
reasonable.
done right.
that's pretty reasonable, I don't think he's gonna put any architectural shit.
And-
That seems
I'm
pretty
just
good.
gonna put a roof on
Right,
it. You said there's there's 2 roofs on it now, you thought?
There's what?
2 roofs,
Yeah, it looks like at least two.
at least 2, okay.
Yeah, we can't put more than 2 on there.
Wait, about 2 more storms, we can slice
We
this on
we can slice the
disposal.
demolition part off it.
I'll take care of the stripping and tear off and the disposal part.
Yeah, I mean, I assume John was out there and actually looked at it. and
He did
surveyed
look
so
at it, in
knows
fact, he
what's-
told us we're gonna have to take there's razor wire along the back side of that roof. I talked to Jeff, and he said, I think we can get that, he goes, it's not real sharp. But he said, we can, it looks pretty easy to take it down on one end, he said it'll take, I told him if we decide to go with this, give us a week or so, at least a week or so notice, and I told Jeff we'll go up, pull it down, he can put the roof on, we can put it back up, I think, so.
Put one of those blue tarps on like all those people around town.
Yeah, that's the wrong end of town.
Oh, okay.
And
See, that's something I would say.
oops.
You get ready when I'm going, you
Yeah,
can
right.
make those dumb comments in.
I'm a little cheap.
Okay.
I did get a hold of the guy on the clock tower, see about getting the clock fixed. And I talked to him, he said the problem with repelling, like hooking up, they've got, when they redid the clock tower, they put 4 anchors in there that you can hook ropes and repel. He said the problem is they're all opposite of where the clock is. Of course.
You swing back.
I said, well, can't you hook one here and kind of swing in the middle? He goes, I don't want to do that. So he
That would
said,
be triple time.
Yeah,
No pun
might
intended.
not be something you want to watch, but
no,
he said that's the problem with it. So getting a crane up there, and I said, we had a lift and we couldn't reach it with the lift. He said, your options are, or a crane, or find someone that is, and he says, I'm an ex-Marine. He goes, I don't mind doing that, but I'm not gonna go swinging back and forth up there trying to.
if you call that place and tear up when that guy was painting the dome of the courthouse, maybe out there.
So what do you suggest?
He said, he gave me a company with a crane. I don't know if Jimmy Neal's got anything that gets up that high or not.
Well, I'm not interested in tearing that sidewalk and making all those.
Well, I
messes.
know,
That's
but
a
if you get a big
issue.
enough crane, you don't have to get that close in there either, but, I mean, the crane that,
Man,
Where's the point entry via the clock? Above?
I
or
take it
below?
right in between. Here's clock, here's the clock, here's the points of entry.
Height wise.
Height
If
wise,
they're gonna get out there, do they come out from, I assume from below?
with the crane,
No.
No.
oh,
Repelling.
Well, they go out the window between the clocks.
Okay.
between,
I was just wondering if there's a separate place we could pay to have another anchor put in that makes sense, you know, or 3 more anchors somewhere interior. I mean, I'm not a climbing expert.
I don't know, I don't think you wanna do that, I don't know, I haven't,
Maybe they trust us.
I mean, it makes sense to me to put one here and here and go right in the middle. It's gonna come to the lower point, but maybe
Yeah,
it's
I
a
just
problem
wonder if
now,
there
I
was-
don't know.
Another possibility, if you had to get a crane, if they could get in there on the north drive, on the concrete, if you had one long enough.
That's what I was
Because
thinking.
it's on the northwest corner of the courthouse, so you might be able
Set
to,
up in there,
if you can make the bend.
and, I mean, the thing is with crane, our riggers that you put out, I don't know, that's just, I don't know whether you,
Well-
depending on how far you go up is how far you put those out.
All right,
So I don't, that's why I didn't know if Jimmy,
How long a process is this to fix this?
it's not that tough. He said, once you gotta get somebody up there to undo a set screw and pull
Yes.
the
It's a shame,
hands
really.
out. It really is.
Maybe we could do it with a chopper then. You know, you
I don't think you're close to the roof.
never know.
I think it's swing around a
Yeah,
little.
just-
I don't know.
They work on high wires all
You
the
can
time.
use a
out there.
stabilizer.
Probably be cheaper to get a crane than a
Yeah,
truck.
or Tarzan.
Yeah,
Jeremy Reed,
Anyway, I'm working on
Johnny
it. So
Weissmuller's dead, isn't he?
that's where we are.
you're all right then. Mr.
You
Bruder?
can do her.
animal meeting last week, everything's going well out there, I think down to like 4 dogs in the shelter.
Oh, my
My
goodness.
goodness.
It's really good, she's doing a great job. They have a reciprocal agreement with Park County, so she takes dogs over there to opt out. We're also working on putting a fence in the back of the shelter so we can have a little more space for the dogs to run. Also, if people come in and want to spend some time, find out they can get off the dogs, so this way, go in the back and it'll be fenced in. It's be paid out of donations to animal shelter, so it's not gonna cost the taxpayers anything. Stopped by and talked to Janet at the health department. The system is in and up and running. For insulating the pipes. We also talked about maybe, we don't have a central place to control the heat in the different rooms, so we're kind of working on that. It might cost a little more money, but that's kind of what she wants. Unbelievable how small that furnace is. It's like 4 feet by 2 feet.
Compared to what they took
Compared
out.
to what they took out, yeah, so it's just unbelievable, and they're very satisfied with the work and just about done with it, so. And still under budgets. That's it.
Thank you, Dan. Michael?
I understand that we didn't get any bids on the fuel from the airport, is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, dumb question, what do we do, then what do we do now?
The state's attorney will have an answer to us, we believe, by Wednesday.
Okay, okay. I didn't want to forget
We
that.
asked him that, but he's been working on some other things, but
Okay,
obviously the question, begs, some of the folks that we asked to bid didn't want to bid because of the size of the tanks.
The what?
Size of the tank.
Oh, okay. Big or too big or too small?
Too small.
Okay.
Okay, Michael. Derek?
So, talked about tanks, obviously the other piece would be Hanson, paying them the $8,803, that's on the docket, so I just wanted to bring that up. And make sure there weren't any questions before we go into the meeting on Wednesday in regards to that.
now I do have a question. That is from probably almost 6 months ago, a year ago. It started out a higher number than that.
Yes.
And you have skillfully negotiated
Oh, I'll
that.
tell you what.
I'm telling you,
Had Barry crying on it.
you know, he used to be our guy, you're our new guy. Alan, you're fired.
There's a shared responsibility.
Okay.
So that's basically how we broke it down. You know
Okay.
what, we're 50% culpable, as are you, so
Okay.
therefore, with the full price divided by 2, that's what we'll pay it. So probably not as, I kind of fudged my negotiation skills, but that's basically how we broke it down. So, yeah, and then the other piece would be, which was a question during comments, was about the proposals for the main hangar space. So something we need to discuss and get on, basically how we want to go about that. We've got some ideas, but not fully formed. Wanted to take to the board and see what, if any, there were opinions on, or how to go forward. Expecting that we will basically put that out now in the May meeting and have to have a special meeting to approve.
So just so everybody understands, there's a difference between a bid and a proposal.
Right.
And
This is
we're
not a formal
leaning
meeting,
towards
but-
going toward a proposal.
Yes.
I hate to say the word informal, but we just ask everybody, what do you want to use it for, how much you want to pay, rather than somebody like you or Alan or somebody sitting down doing a bid spec, which could be time consuming and probably won't be all inclusive. That makes more sense to me.
Can you do that legally?
Just to let
We
you
have no
know,
obligation as
Yeah,
far
okay.
as,
unless we're bidding out the actual operation of the airport,
Okay.
which we could do for 1 year or less without bidding. We do not need to bid any particular,
We could just
You
say
think
by
somebody
CI
would
that
do that
Dan's
for
gonna hold all the new
$80,000
dogs
a year?
and have in the main hangar, and that's what we'll do. We're not gonna do that, obviously.
So, proposals sound fine to me.
Okay, I just want to,
think we need
I
to-
don't,
That's my opinion, I'm only one of seven.
I have had problems before understanding how you bid things, and certain individuals thought I was trying to bid rig, and it was just ignorance on my part. But I want to make sure that we're going in the right direction here and simplifying this, because in Derek's defense, we don't have a whole lot of time, and this is going to take a lot of work to get all this done, what we have to do, so. I think bid proposals or proposals are the way to go.
I think you need to make sure that you're comparing apples, I mean, at least define
Right.
the area you're talking about
Right.
and the time period you're talking
And
about.
another question that I had, is this something that we have to do in open session, or is this something we have to do in closed session, because we're discussing a lease and that type of thing, and,
I think you could negotiate with them in closed session, okay? But you'd have to have for example, if the committee was going to negotiate with, you sent out proposals, or the invitation proposal, then you got them in. You could sit with each one and talk about their proposal if you had a special meeting, or I'm sorry, a committee meeting, and then had on the agenda to go in executive session for the 3 board members that are on that committee, and then discuss their proposals with them. That's the way
what I'm saying is, if we had, let's say, 5 or 6, and they all come into this room here, and they're all set, and the first one says, well, I'll give X amount of dollars a
You
month.
can't do it.
But, right, then the second one goes, oh geez, I gotta up that, or I'm not gonna be in the ballgame. I
You gotta
mean,
do it individually.
yeah, I wanna make sure it's done right, so that's something we need to give some thought to.
Well, I think you've got to give it a cutoff. You can't go ad infinitum on what they're gonna do. I
Right.
mean, you say,
Right.
as of this date, what is your proposal?
And that hybrid can work, I think, kind of as along our lines that we were talking about, how do you want to shake it out? But, request proposals, once they're in, set up a time, hey, we are going to have a meeting of the airport committee. Here are your time slots to come and sit down with us and talk about your proposal. Those will be in closed session. We can schedule that out, have the actual sit down. From there, we can make our decision.
And recommend with the full
Yeah,
board? and
right.
go from there.
So have a written proposal, and you just have a stack of them, and then we discuss them, is that what you're saying before we?
Well,
Talk.
schedule a meeting and tell the people who submitted proposals, this is your time slot to come and talk to us on this date to discuss.
We're not gonna take oral proposals.
I don't how we can do that, and I just
Yeah,
wanna make
this
sure
is
we're doing it right.
committee.
Okay,
Just pick out
Okay.
the one you think's the best, bring it to board votes on it, and pass it.
Sure. But you can still talk,
Yeah.
the written proposals come in,
Right.
you can set a time to discuss with people who submit said proposal and
Why
ask
not?
whatever questions you have,
well,
right?
okay.
When's
And
the-
that could be in closed session, so there's no what
I
you're
don't
concerned
think,
about, right?
I don't think we can take money issues without getting into bid rigging, is what I'm saying, we can't,
You're not
No,
gonna
you're
change,
not.
once the proposals are in, you don't change the proposal,
And you're not requesting a bid.
and you're not
You're not
requesting a
bidding.
bid,
Right.
And make
like you're worried.
a suggestion.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you check with some of the different larger entities that do RFPs, they usually have what your objective is that you put out to get those RFPs. And through those objectives, you have created a scoring criteria. You take all the RFPs and you score them based on your objective. And those with the highest score, that's typically who wins the
So
proposal.
it's not bid.
And you're
No,
still
it's not a
gonna,
bid,
Right.
no.
you're
But
still
if you
gonna
compare
open the
the-
proposal, they'll be
Oh,
public.
yeah.
So
Right.
there's no, once they've been, they're in public, you're just simply talking about it, to explain it.
when you do that in public, though, the first guy's at a disadvantage, because the second.
No, they're frozen,
They're
they're
all in.
all in at the same time.
Okay,
Separate.
okay,
You're not
You can't
asking
put 'em
for
all
a
in one
proposal
room.
from you at one time,
Yeah.
and you another, and you another. They all have to
Like
be
an
in by
auction, that's not like an auction.
May 2nd, and everybody has to have their proposal in, okay?
okay, in writing,
In writing,
okay,
all right?
all right.
When's our rent done? We have a certain month.
June
So
6th
after that, we won't
is
have any
the
money
end.
coming.
We'll
That's why
get
we rent out.
May rent, and then that's it.
So we gotta have it basically done
Well, we,
by end of June.
Well,
Be
in May,
nice.
I
Or
do.
be
Yeah.
nice.
Right.
No rush.
Okay.
What else, Derek?
That was the big one, so.
Is there a meeting tonight?
So, yeah, that's, there, I will not be attending. Carl, are you gonna be attending that meeting?
Oh, I know where there was a
Yeah,
meeting.
exactly. So I discussed with Joe, I said, hey, the committee decided we were not gonna have a meeting based on a lot of things still being up in the air. He said, I'm gonna go ahead and have a meeting anyway. I said, fine. So I'm not planning on attending.
Have you posted or done anything?
Yeah, it was posted Friday morning when I received it.
Is it courthouse?
6:30 at the airport?
I'm not aware of the time, John, but I think that's what it is.
Courthouse or the airport?
No, say it's not a sanctioned
We don't
meeting
know.
by us, so I didn't even,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not concerning myself with it. Probably the airport, but.
And Joe said he was gonna go out and post it on the door at the airport.
Okay.
So it's at the airport. 6:30.
Thank you, Derek.
Yep.
Alan?
Just a couple times, I tried to make some tours of all of our buildings that I know of from that standpoint, looked around, talked a little bit with different people, get an idea of some of the things going on. The renewal, the restructuring process, I went back just to see how it went with the probation. Several of you saw that, if you went up there. I thought I'd go by a week or so later just to see if it is actually working. And they all seem to be very, very, very happy with our restructuring and how that took place up there. Our next study session, Travis Bushu from Bushu Associates will be here to talk. I think what's important that all of us know a little bit more about the Affordable Care Act. It's been one of those things that you're supposed to be the stipulation. No, it changed January 1. No, they pushed it back. So the board hadn't been updated for a while. So in our next April study session, he should be here, and any other insurance issues. So I would encourage you, if we have other insurance issues before that time, let me know, and I'll get it to him, because that way it won't be spur of the moment, and we can ask him whatever we want to ask him. The other thing, another thing that, whenever I was going around, do we know anything more about the door that's supposed to be on the assessor treasurer's office? Have we heard anything about that? Anybody
The
know?
door, the automatic door?
Correct.
Yeah.
No. We just need to go out and get a bid on that, or proposal,
So,
or
I
whatever
thought
else.
someone came over and looked, or
Janet has someone that is working on her door.
The health department?
Yeah, I don't think it's been installed yet, but she has talked to somebody.
okay,
And we thought we would let her go first because she was further along in that process.
Well, we should have money, that's counting money we
Should be
would
health and safety
expend,
issues,
yeah, from that we're gonna get from our reimbursement from.
from insurance safety.
Yeah,
money.
and just, because those, to me, that's an issue. Say Janet has one,
She's working on it, yeah.
I guess
Should
that would be
finalize
one
it.
thing. I guess I'd be leaning more toward the direct county office, because that's money that we directly got back for county use. And I think that we need to look at that. I don't know Andy, what do you think?
Oh, I guess I thought it was already in the works, and we were gonna get.
So
an
was I,
estimate.
I kinda walked around, I
Okay.
didn't see anything on it, so that's what I was
Okay.
curious. I don't think we have to have committees
So you
out there or
think
anything.
Janet is the one
I'll
who's
talk to her
working?
about it.
All right,
See
fine.
how far along she
Just to
is.
get, because we should have, I don't even know how much
I know
money's
you
still in
keep
there,
talking
but
about it.
hopefully there'll be enough for 2 doors if you
Well,
have
there was
that.
3 doors.
$8,400
Yeah,
or so,
just-
and we thought we could for sure get 2 doors put in.
Yeah.
That we were gonna let the health
But we-
department and the treasurer's office go first.
Mhm.
And then there was a comment made about the basement door at the courthouse
Right,
that had been settled or needs to be
It's basically.
That's what's, just to get our priorities and to find out
aluminum's
totally how much money.
disintegrated and it's fallen.
Jeff, you probably don't have
Needs
any
redone.
idea, or off the top of your head, how much totally is in there. I can't remember
Oh,
because
there's-
we didn't spend it all 2 years ago. I
No,
believe.
it's probably
And it was
74 and 84, and
Yeah,
we
and
spent a
last
little
year
bit
was
out of
big,
it.
I just
Okay.
think, it's one of those things, I think if we don't do it, we won't. So, that's, nobody else talking to me about that. Okay, that's all I have.
Just want to impress upon you about the deal with them coming in and talking about the Affordable Care Act. It's really important if you can be here next time, so everybody has good knowledge of what's going on. Carl, I know we need an executive session, but do you have anything to talk about, as far as,
On the agenda, there's an item for the approval of the contract with the jailers and dispatchers.
and everybody's got a copy?
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a quick,
It's on me.
a quick review of that. The pay increase was 3.5 first year and 3 the second year,
3.25, first year.
for the 3.25.
3 1/4.
3.25 and 3,
Yes.
okay. Also, there was a slight increase in longevity pay from 3 to 3.5. The big thing, as far as we were concerned, was on the overtime issue. You know, that's been a big issue for both units of the department. We got them on the jailers and dispatchers to, part of the agreement was that up to 5 shifts per week, we can use part-time help versus prior to that, you know, they got all the overtime. And that's also something I'll touch on with, when we go into executive session with the road deputies, we got concessions on that for allowing more overtime. And I just quickly in my head this morning was figuring what savings both of the agreements would be, and it potentially could be $45,000 to $50,000 savings for the county by getting these, I guess, concessions or agreements on the overtime issue. Currently, the sheriff's department budget has $70,000 in overtime, and we're a third of the way through the year, and we've spent $55,000 already. So we were on track to be $90,000 to $100,000 over on that line item, you know, at the current rate we've been going, but with these agreements that we've got, I think it'll help quite a bit.
When's the 8 weeks up, Carl?
The 8-week agreement with the road deputies is up May 1st, but I'll just, you know, we'll talk about it right now in open session. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
That we went to the 10-hour shifts with the road deputies. That seems to, everybody feels like that will help with the overtime issue. Plus, of course, we had an 8-week agreement that all overtime in that 8 weeks was to be used with part-time help. All open shifts were using, the sheriff has been able to use part-time help, so the overtime has been almost zero because of that. But we have an agreement for the next 4 months after that, that the overtime will be split 50-50 with the bargaining unit, you know, the full-time road deputies, and 50% of it will go to management, basically part-time help. And that, you know, I figured that up, and it's potentially a $25,000 savings to the county just with that agreement.
That's over a course of a fiscal year?
And then annually.
And they will agree to that?
They have agreed to that.
They're pretty receptive. I'm gonna say, I think they've been real constructive.
Just to clarify, you said that there's a 1-month agreement based on that, but you think that will go forward for the rest of the year and
Well,
ongoing, or what?
a month ago, we had an agreement, we would try the 10-hour shifts, and all overtime goes to this part-time help. We had an 8-week agreement, 2 months.
If we're this is just start of the 5th week this week.
Right.
Okay. That's
And
what
then-
my question was.
Then we kind of waited a month or so to see how it was going, and the sheriff said it was going fine and everything was working, and they seemed to be happy. So we had a meeting last week and have another agreement to extend it for another 4 months with 50-50.
Okay.
So basically, the first opportunity overtime goes to the union, then the next opportunity goes to the sheriff. He can use either management or part-time people. The next opportunity, the union just alternate. So potentially, we could get half of that, and, you know, $12 an hour versus 30-some dollars
Yeah,
an
I got
hour
it.
is a
So,
big savings.
but the sense of how things are going, we can expect, barring some wrench thrown into the plan, that will probably be the plan going forward, at least throughout the rest of the year, at
Yeah.
50/50.
At the end of 4 months, which is I think like 1st September, probably a month prior to that, we'll sit down and see how it's going and see if everybody's happy with it, and then if it's satisfactory to everybody, then we'll continue it for the next
For the
2 years
contract.
of the contract.
Okay,
Yeah, the full contract.
okay.
So it doesn't automatically revert necessarily, it may be where we can reason with these guys and do it to the end of their contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that.
Everybody understands that, yes. So, you know, it's just a savings for the future, you know, getting this language in the contract.
The last payroll was $2,940. And if you project that over a year's period, that makes it a lot more palatable,
Well,
all
we
overtime.
have to increase that amount by 50%, right?
Maybe.
Or at least the overtime portion would be increased by
50%.
50%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't
that's
increase
possible.
zero, but,
There was,
You know what I'm saying?
Maximum, hopefully.
right.
They could do something. Just as an aside, thank you guys for working together, and also thank our sheriff deputies for understanding the situation that we were in and being able to work with us.
Thought negotiation went very well, both sides.
Yeah, we had a lot of good
Right,
discussion and very open,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
went good.
very well, went very well.
Just out of curiosity, would the union have representation there? Were they part
Yeah,
of the
that's the other
decision-making
problem.
process, or? I was just
Their,
curious.
their guy was there, but he really didn't
He didn't,
have a whole lot
I
to
was
say. you know.
surprised.
It was just discussion with us and the employees,
Right.
and I thought it went real well, and the sheriff. Yeah, the union people didn't have a whole lot to say from Springfield.
They were overall against it in the first place.
I thought it went very well.
Very well.
Negotiation.
I'm pleased, real pleased. I got thrown, kicked over, knocked over.
Nobody got mad,
Nobody got mad,
slapped in the face.
slapped in the face.
anything
Fell
else,
out of the
Carl?
chair, anything.
And this was a union meeting?
Any other questions of Carl at this point? Before we get to Augie, if you had a chance to look at the agenda, we got the highway resolutions, we've got the community club again asking for motel, hotel tax. Remember last year they didn't use it all and sent it back? Go
I
ahead.
think comments should be made that somebody says, well, using citizens' tax money, but actually, the money is from Christian's tax on their bed and breakfast, right? So the money's basically theirs,
Well,
in a way it
the whole
is.
county, yes.
Yeah,
The
in a
whole-
way it is.
They
But
are
to say
also,
it's coming from our budget or something like that,
no,
so
it's
true.
not.
Not true.
They are an official
Right.
501c3 now, and they're in the process of, do you know, that is not easy, guys, and it's not cheap.
Was about $1,500?
No, it was 400,
Oh.
but we don't have to be incorporated to do it. But I'm not gonna give you a lesson in. And we're also in the process, the attorney's filing the thing with the Attorney General's office, so we're all.
That's the easy part.
That's a $15 part, that's fine. So, then we've got a resolution on elected officials, resolution. We've got, County Board of Review final report. Then we talked to, Derek talked about the authorization for Hanson's. Then we've got some appointments. We've got a resolution by Don, giving him the authority to borrow $500,000 in case we need it, which we do annually. We've got the jailers and dispatchers on here. We've got action on fuel, that our state's attorney will weigh in on to make sure that we handle that, whether we need to bid out or whether we can just say, hey, we did the best we could and continue to buy fuel. So we'll go from there. So are there any, I don't want any surprises or anything on there for anybody?
Is Don just gonna go get bids, or does he already have?
He already has.
Okay. You know
And
who it
this'll-
is? Edgar County Bank, or is it?
Yeah, but I don't know who,
Okay,
I don't know who got it. It could be Farmers, it could be Edgar County, I don't know.
okay.
Is this anything you wanna do anything about Wednesday?
Just do-
Well, that doesn't
Well,
require
Okay.
anything.
I didn't know whether you
The
wanted.
committee can decide to go ahead with that as long as it
Well,
fits
it's
into
only
the budget.
30,000 though,
I know,
But I
I'd like
think
to
the
let everybody
sense
know.
was that everybody realizes it has to be fixed.
What do you think of that? I think it's a good.
I think it's a good deal. Yeah, I've done roofing, that's not, it's not bad.
I paid to have roofing done.
I know.
Augie, do you have,
No,
you don't have anything?
no.
Do we even have a need for a closed session at this point? I don't have anything.
No, I don't know, as far as union stuff.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something else that we're missing. Any other comments from the board? Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Wait a minute, he had a
I'm
comment.
getting
I'm
ready to
sorry.
make that adjourn.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were looking for the motion to adjourn.
Yes, I
was getting ready
am,
to
Mr.
throw it right up
Zuber.
there.
All those in favor, or second, please? Mr. Bruner seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Good discussion.